Good evening, everybody. It is time for Stock Talk, Thursday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're doing Stock Talk. So we're going to talk stocks. But you know what? It's actually Stock Talk, hot or not, is really what this program is all about. And you've noticed that we've had some episodes where we go beyond the world of just stocks. In fact, I'm going to do that tonight. We are going to look at stocks. But we're going to look at a few other things. I want to look at what is happening across the world of investing, what's happening in the news, things that maybe you're hearing about. I want to be the place to talk about that kind of stuff. So we're going to go over stocks. We're going to look at some crypto tonight. We're going to look at some precious metals tonight. So we're hitting on a bunch of things, and we're going to do it by doing it the way that we do it here. We're going to look at the charts. We're going to put those up on the screen. I want to keep exposing you guys to the charts, price charts. That's how we do what we do here at Tradeway. We teach and train all of our people how to use the stock chart. Now, it's not the only piece we use, but it is a big part of how we do what we do. And I want to make sure that you guys are getting the, if you will, hands-on. I want to show you what these things are doing, right? What I just mentioned. I want to actually show you what they are doing and help you. I was talking to some students right before I got on this broadcast, to all of you guys out there on Facebook and YouTube, and just letting them know, hey, everybody, I'm not just trying to show you what we're doing as coaches here at Tradeway, not just what we're doing, but thinking the way we're thinking. And the way you can do that is, if you will, just joining me on the couch, look over my shoulder, see the charts, see the stock charts, learn a little bit more about some things maybe that you didn't already, and just get an opinion, and I should say an informed opinion on some of these things that are coming up in the news and people are talking about. So that's what we're going to do tonight. And I'll tell you what those specific assets that we're going to look at are here in just a moment. But first, I want to say hi. Some people are already jumping on, saying hi to me. I want to say hi to you. Nancy, I see you there. Veronica and Jeffrey is, Jeffrey's, you're on the golf course right now, Jeffrey? That's different. No games for me. I'm focused on stocks. Well, hopefully we're not holding up the train here in the middle of the golf course tonight, but appreciate you being on here, Jeffrey, Nancy, Veronica, everybody else who's joining us live. Of course, we already know that most of you join us on the recording. So you'll be watching this on the recording on YouTube, most likely. So to you guys out there, of course, good evening to you as well. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this here. We're going to do a little bit. I've got a little bit different setup here tonight. So actually, I can just do this. We're going to do something a little bit different here. I'm just going to kind of a little bit more rapid fire on tonight's episode and just show you some of the things right now that are hot. Okay, these things are hot. How can you read what these how can you read as a trader what people are saying when they say, well, this is really hot? Well, what does that really mean? And what does it look like today? And what are we anticipating it could look like tomorrow? So that is what we're going to look at. Now, we're going to look at specifics. I got 5 here, okay? We're going to look at the S&P. We almost always look at the S&P, okay? The S&P 500. We've talked about that many, many times on here. We are going to look at that. I also want to look at an index that we have not spent any time looking at yet, okay? This is the Dow Jones Industrial Index. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but we've not looked at the Dow Jones. We may have referenced it several times, but it's not something we've actually looked at. Now, you're going to hear in the news almost always, you're going to hear about the Dow, right? They'll call it the Dow Jones, potentially. Rarely are they going to say Dow Jones Industrial Index. They may say that, but usually it's going to be a shorter form. The Dow, that's pretty darn hot right now. So we're going to look at that guy. Okay, that's an index as well. So those are both the stock market. And when we talk about the market, it's usually the S&P 500 and the Dow. Sometimes they include the NASDAQ in there, but we'll look at those two tonight in terms of the stock market. We're also going to look in the stock market on a sector. Okay, energy stocks, in particular, energy stocks. Now, remember, a few weeks back, I showed you a simple tool that you can use, right? I gave you a website, showed you how to use that so that you could find, well, what sectors of the industry or of the stock market, 11 different sectors, which ones are performing the best? Wouldn't it be nice if I could look at the market as a whole and see when the market is hot? And then out of that whole market, go down to a specific sector of which there are 11, right? And find out which stocks in the sector are hot. And I'm narrowing it down where I'm actually getting some very, very helpful information as a trader, right? Momentum is so important to trading. I want to be trading in an environment that has momentum if I am purchasing the stock. Okay, if I'm purchasing the stock, there are some times where I can do some other things with options and some of that really fun stuff we teach around here at Tradeway, where you actually don't need the stock to move at all. But tonight we're talking stocks, so we want momentum. That's one way to do that. We're going to look at energy because energy is really heating up. It's been doing very well, so I want to show you that. Furthermore, we're going to look at some precious metals. Okay, this is not something that we have done just here on Stock Talk. We had Ben Mitchell on, who is our director of the precious metals department here at Tradeway. He is the master over here of all things precious metals, but gold is heating up. Okay, so I want to show you gold tonight. We're going to take a look at what is happening in the chart of gold. Okay, so I'll take you on over there. And then also, as if we weren't going to cover enough ground, we're also going to take a moment. Now, I'm going to move through these fairly quickly, right? But we're going to go through all of them. And the last one we're going to look at tonight is actually a cryptocurrency. Now, we did a few episodes now on cryptocurrencies. So if you've missed that, make sure go back, watch that. What is it? What do we need to know? I'll cover a little bit of that tonight, but primarily I'm just going to show you this particular coin. Remember that cryptocurrencies are distributed as coins. They're cryptocurrencies. They're electronic, right? There's a deeper explanation there that we went over in our other episode, but this is what we would call an altcoin. It's not the Bitcoin that we've talked about in the past. It's one of the altcoins, and it is Ethereum. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then just stick around for a little bit because this chart is mind-blowingly hot. I mean, it is just refusing to go down at any point, really. But it will go down because nothing goes up forever. So we need to know what to know, and that's what we're going to cover tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and start jumping into the screen, or my screen share here. Send this. I'm Jeffrey's saying, Blair, I don't know if it's lighting or what, but you look a little gray. There's a real white wash to this here. I'm hoping next week we're back in the studio, but I've got a ring light in front of me. It's a big light that just kind of shines straight at me, and that's probably what is doing that. So let's go ahead and jump over. And that way you guys can see what I'm looking at too. All right. Bingo. All right, we're starting over here. Now, we've talked about this a lot, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on here. And as I'm going through, please feel free, send me any questions you might have. But, let's just take a look at that for a second. Now, I've said this on here before. You just can't tell me that that's not hot. Now, we've been talking a lot here at Tradeway the last few weeks, three, in fact, the market has been much more sideways, right? It hasn't really been making much of a move up as it's been going more sideways from about here. This is April 16th, really until today. Now, it's tried to break out even here on the 29th, but you see where this is in the pattern, okay? It just goes back and forth in between these lines. For those of you who haven't been joining us or haven't been joining us very long, this is really what we do. We're looking for patterns. And this chart is locked in a pattern. And it's a pattern where it's moving back and forth between these same price levels over and over again. And it's been locked in this sideways movement for a little while, which is really, we'd expected it to come up, hit right in here, and drop back down, at least into this area right here. And it just really hasn't wanted to do that. So there's two things happening here right now. This is the S&P 500. This is 505 actually stocks in the index that give us an idea of what's happening across the economy. So you say, Blair, is the stock market hot? Is now a good time, right, to get into stocks? Well, I can answer that generally here because, of course, we're not talking about a specific company. We're talking about an index as a whole, okay? The stock market over long term is doing extremely well. It's doing extremely well. We've covered pretty comprehensively some reasons. In fact, we went over a lot on this past Monday. Why? What is happening? What is creating some of these conditions? But it's been doing very well. In the short term, it's kind of slowed down a bit. But here's what I want you to get tonight. It's been going sideways. What does this pattern tend to do when it comes up into these lines? It tends to drop, right? It tends to drop. At least a few days it drops. And then every now and then we're getting into these deeper levels here. Well, this one has basically just been going sideways. It's refusing to really drop. And today, at the end of the day, with some news from the president that corporate tax rates, he would be willing to discuss a 25% tax rate as opposed to a 40% corporate tax rate. And that sent the market flying. In fact, if I can show you this, the chart we're looking at right now, every one of these candlesticks, these little blocks on the screen, is a day. Okay, it's a day. But what if I go to the 3-minute chart? Meaning every single one of these candlesticks is a 3-minute time period. Look what happened in the last hour of the day. This is when the news came out and it exploded. It exploded up. Okay, so that was very hot at the end of the day. Right now, though, we're coming into those all-time highs. This is the all-time high. This is as high as the stock market, S&P 500, specifically speaking, has ever been. And again, I got a big old screen in front of me here tonight. I'm looking at, well, let's see. I'm looking at today's trading, May 6th, back to late December of 2020. And of course, I see the crash, last spring, but it is just a slant like this, isn't it? Right? It's huge. It's huge. It's very resilient. It's very strong. The stock market doesn't pull back very much before the buyers come in. Now, I want to say this. I'm not suggesting there are no risks. There are always risks. In fact, there is talk that stocks being this high, we've got to keep buying hunger, right? Very strong. Or will these stock valuations, these price levels that we're at, will they be able to hold? Well, right now, they're not letting it go down. And for that reason, it is hot. I would like to see, I'll just say this, I tell this to the students all the time. You know what I'd like to see today? I'd like to see it come all the way back down here. That's what I'd like to see. Say, Blair, you want to see the stock market go down? Why would you want it to go down? Because I want it to reset. I want this pattern to reset. I really liked this. Back down to this level. Bam. I didn't draw this line on that day. Okay, this line was already in there. So that was really nice. Sideways choppy, not as easy. But overall, S&P 500 looking good. Very hot. Jeffrey says, could this be a topping pattern? Would you expect a head and shoulders before a breakdown? So Jeffrey's asking a question specifically about some of the patterns. Remember I said we were looking for patterns. It's just the beginning. It's the first step to help us make sense of price. because price is really what you're looking at on this chart, everybody. Think about this for a second. This is kind of cool when I got my head around this. The price chart is telling me dollars and cents, the price of that particular stock, right? Right? But think about it another level deeper from there. It's actually telling me what people are willing and not willing to pay for that stock. So in a way, the stock chart is a representation of the psychology of every trader in the market. If they feel like they don't want to pay, if they feel like they're willing to pay, that gets reflected on the chart. If they're optimistic, it gets reflected on the chart. If they're fearful, it gets reflected on the chart, right? It all shows on the chart. So we find these patterns because we find that humans in their emotions and in their psychology tend to do the same things over and over. And that creates patterns in the market. And so one of those patterns Jeffrey has mentioned here, a head and shoulders. And he's basically saying, is what we're seeing here right now something that we should watch out, right? At least in the short term, right? We should watch out. Because remember, trading and investing, okay? Two different things. We're talking swing trading, 3 days, anywhere from 1 to 3 days to 2 to 3 weeks. So Jeffrey, do I think it's a topping pattern? I think the market overall is strong. However, in the short term, where we are at right now, today was definitely a strong close for the S&P. Okay, today was a strong close, some good news, but I definitely have my doubts right here. I mentioned already, I would like to see a deeper pullback. Here's one thing we don't do. We don't guess. We don't need to guess. You do not need to know what the market is doing, right? You don't need to know what it's going to do tomorrow to make money in the stock market, right? Anybody who says they have a crystal ball, you should just run the other way, right? Because there is no predicting, guessing, knowing the stock market unless the Holy Spirit tells you. And that is for you and the Holy Spirit to work out, right? But for me, I'm not going to predict and guess. I am going to assess what the risk is. And right now we're coming into all-time highs. Okay, so buying a lot of stock here is not something I would do. You say, well, Blair, you said the market's hot. For trading, it is, but we got to wait for the right times. And of course, that's something we talk about extensively in our program. So overall, you can't argue with me and say, you can't convince me, I should say, that market that we're looking at right there is not a hot market. But it is going sideways, and I want to see especially what happens tomorrow, because we've had, I'm going to jump back in here. I didn't mean to spend quite this much time on the S&P, but we've had some days where it went up and then it just couldn't hold it, and today went up. So I won't be surprised if tomorrow it can't hold it. Okay. Now I think the good news we got at the end of the day today is reason to expect that it could continue this time instead of just pulling back. But it has been pulling back when we become optimistic. So I'm a little more cautious this time. But overall, I want to see it, as I said, I want to see it down in here. I want to see a break, a move to the 50-day. I want to see it reset. And I think that will be a much better environment to see if the buyers can step in again. So let's go over here now for a second. Now, this is the one I mentioned we haven't talked about much, okay? Now, this one in the last 5-6 days has not been going sideways. And actually today, this one smashed into an all-time high. So let me scroll this out here. You can see this one also doing extremely well. Look at this. Let's just say 18,200. Okay, 18,200. Okay, if I just round that to 18,000 even, okay, and we're at 34,500. So we're not double yet, but we are pretty close, right? Pretty close, double since March of last year. So that's pretty phenomenal. But even so, more recently, this guy has been just screaming hot, okay? It's gone from 33, well, let's get an exact point here. It's not quite that low, 33,800, okay, and now up to 35. You say, well, what does that mean? Well, the Dow Jones is a different index, okay? So we looked at the S&P 500, 505 companies. The Dow Jones has 30, okay, 30 industrial stocks. So this is giving us a measurement of a different pool of stocks, okay? This is giving us, it's the Dow Jones Industrial. So it's giving us a more industrial view, not so much a broad economic overview of all those 11 sectors. So it's a little bit different, but it's a very important index. And this one is doing quite well, okay? So definitely, if you go out and you were to Google the Dow Jones, right, 30, the Dow Jones 30, it's going to tell you the 30 stocks that are in the Dow Jones. And if you're going to trade those stocks that are in the Dow Jones, then you ought to go ahead and look at what the Dow Jones is doing in particular. What's the pattern? Where's support and resistance? If I'm going to trade those stocks, I ought to know what's happening in the index. Because if the index is really heating up and there's a lot of confidence in this area, then you're likely going to see the stocks that are in this index all getting a boost at that point. Now, that doesn't guarantee that because this index is up, that every single stock in it is up, okay? But it's definitely going to be a helpful tool for you to use. Now, I just want to make sure, check in if we have any questions. Nope. So that's looking at the Dow Jones, looking strong, definitely looking strong, right? Makes an all-time high here. We definitely had some sideways movement, but it really just came back into the 20-day moving average, which is where it was down here, and boom, off it goes. Looking pretty strong, not looking nearly as sloppy to me on this one. So I like that. Now, I mentioned also energy, okay? Energy stocks. Look at this. So this is of the S&P 500. I mentioned there are 11 sectors. Now, we looked at this a few weeks ago, right? We looked at the website where we can look at these sector stocks, these ETFs. They just track the sector, okay? We're getting a little deeper here. It tracks the sector. It's not actually it's how do I say this? The ETFs for each of the 11 sectors is actually a product that tracks that sector. So we can buy and sell shares of that product, okay? That's what we're looking at here in the XLE, right? You can find the 11. In fact, I'll just go ahead and do this for you over here. Spider ETFs. Here they are on the right side of the screen, right? XLP, FCU, BKIRE, which is real estate, E, V, and Y. So we're looking here at the XLE because energy has been doing very well. I got to get back to my list here. Okay, we'll just leave it here for now. Energy has been doing really well. Look what's happened here. Well, first of all, very defined pattern, right? We had a very defined pattern. We came up into this area and it blasted off. But that's great at the time, but that was back in the middle of March, right? From the middle of March until the middle of April, it was just getting killed. And then it started to take off. It couldn't even make it. I'm going to go right here, do this. It couldn't even make it back down into this area, right? It from there had taken off. So what can we do when something like that happens? I've seen a lot of stocks like this lately. So what I'm going to do is head on over to one of the biggest stocks in the XLE, right? You can think the big ones, Chevron, CVX, ExxonMobil, which we're looking at right now, XOM, does the same thing. It's in a pattern. It breaks out. It comes, it starts going sideways. It's in here. There's not really much we can do. If we're only looking at this right here, it's just kind of a mess. It's not really in the pattern. But when I find a pattern, everybody, you can remember this. I don't delete the lines right away when the pattern changes like this. It breaks out, right? It starts doing this. Let me grab my line here. It starts doing something more like that, right? It's using that 10-day moving average going up, and then it breaks it. Well, now what's it doing? Well, we don't know, right? And if we don't know because it's not in a pattern, then we ought to just go find something where we can see a pattern. And we could see that energy for a little while struggled because it had been doing so well. But over here, you can see, what does it do? It's outside these lines. It seems to not even care about these old lines at all. And then it comes back in. What does it do? Breaks out, pulls back into support, and then moves up from there. And I've seen a lot of energy stocks right now that pulled back inside their range, which is the support and resistance lines I have here, pulled back down. Now, it didn't have to pull down. Now, sometimes it wouldn't do that. Sometimes it'll break into this chart and it'll just take off, right? Which is hard. It's hard to catch a rocket. We need time to set up an entry and get in. And in this case, it comes back in the range, shows us that there are some buyers willing to bring the stock there. It falls right here on the 30th of April, stops at the 10 and 20 and the old support line. And the next day, the buyers come in, follow through, and you and I don't have to catch a rocket. We can go, okay, that's something that I could realistically have prepared for and been ready to trade on the 3rd of May, okay? That is something you can do. And if you look over at the industry itself, then you start to see this guy, right, pull up, down into this moving average and starts to follow through. Now, this one isn't at that long-term support line, but you can see that the stock is actually gaining strength. I don't decide to buy and sell stocks based on these industries. I do it based on the chart itself, the company itself. But this is an added layer. And of course, we went over that more on our previous broadcast when we talked about these ETFs. But energy doing nicely. And you know, Jeffrey Nance, one of our coaches here at Tradeway, he likes energy. He's kind of our energy guy. And he'll stock this sector and some of these major stocks in this sector. And he'll comment all the time. And it's true. It's true. You know, when this industry really moves, it really moves. What we got to watch for here is this to retest right in there. You say, Blair, where'd you get that line from? 53.60. Why does that matter? Because that's where it topped out last time. 53.60. It went up, boom, hit it, and then at that point it fell. So are the buyers going to be strong enough to push us through that level there? We'll have to see. If I was in an energy stock, that is a line I would want to pay attention to. That's a good tip. I'm just saying. All right, everybody. So thought there was a question there. The next one I wanted to look at was actually gold. Gold. How is gold doing? Like I said, I talked to Mr. Ben Mitchell, our resident gold guy. What's fun about this is that usually, guys, when we're looking at stocks, the market's closed. By the time we join on Thursday night, the market's already closed. Well, gold is going to be traded at all times. The market is open, right? We can just trade. Now, I'm not saying, in fact, I don't personally trade gold, right? And Ben, he would have some specific opinions on actually trading gold. That's not really what we teach people to do. There are some unique things about gold that aren't as advantageous for trading. They're advantageous for long-term ownership, whereas trading stocks is much better for that short-term cash flow that most folks have as a goal for their trading. So that's the potential of that. However, look at this. When I zoom out, okay, this is similar to what I just showed you guys in ExxonMobil. You've got a long-term what? Downtrend. It's moving down. The highs are getting lower. The lows are getting lower. But notice what happened here. It made a low, right? Did what it had been doing. Then it comes up. It doesn't even get back to where it was. Ooh, that seems ugly. This could be nasty. It drops, but it can't get lower than it did the time before. It gets down, but it doesn't get lower than the time before. In fact, it doesn't even get to this line. And then it moves up. It gets back to that same level, and then it starts to drop, and we think, uh-oh, but then it reverses here. What does that mean? That means it's now made a higher low. Okay, we're getting into the technical stuff of price. This is where people are being drawn into gold. They're buying it again, and they're buying it at a higher level than they were willing to do before. What is this showing me? It's showing me that the momentum is shifting. See, as we begin to understand these things, we can make really informed decisions, protecting our money, potentially profiting. Now, again, I don't trade gold, but the price action is based on psychology, on emotions, on human behavior. So the principles are the same. Then it does what? It actually breaks out of this range that it had been in. Now, it did it here and failed pretty badly. What happened here? It came out, it pulls back, old resistance, then becomes new support. What used to be the ceiling has now become the floor that it lands on. Instead of needing to push through it, it can lean on it. And that's what we see happen here in gold. And then, boom, it explodes. And the last few days have been great. Today being really the best day in a little while. It's definitely been doing well. Now, this whole move here has been strong, okay? It's been hurting for a while, but this whole move has been strong. It's just that this has been outside of that old range, right? Whereas these other moves up fail, right? This one tried, then it goes up, doesn't fail. So gold is really at a nice spot there. I talked to Ben Mitchell just before we jumped on live tonight, and he's definitely been sending out some alerts to his students regarding gold and some of the things that they should be watching for and doing, because there's some anticipation in this area. I'm not suggesting everybody go out and buy gold right now, right? It is hot, it is heating up, but there are some specifics that you need to know. So that's something that Ben Mitchell is going over with all his people. Of course, you can always go over to tradeway.com, check out precious metals. It's right there on the main page. If you're interested in the benefits, precious metals, asset protection, long-term, that's something you can check out right there on our website, tradeway.com. Gold rush. Jeffrey says gold rush. You know, it's funny you say gold rush, because there is a bit of a modern day gold rush going on right now. And I don't want to sensationalize it by saying that, but there really is. We looked at this a little while ago, didn't we, guys? We looked at GameStop, and this isn't my goal tonight. I'm not really talking about GameStop, but you know, some of this Wall Street bet stuff, some people thought, oh, maybe this is going to be a gold rush. Like, you know, all these retail investors out there are going to get together online and they're going to drive all these prices up, and that's going to be the next thing. And a lot of people got really hurt. Now, some people made millions of dollars, no question. And I'm sure you've seen some of them in the news or on Facebook or whatever. But most people, without a skill set, threw some money at it, had no idea what was happening, and hopefully it wasn't a lot of money, because it hasn't really performed since. Now, I would say GameStop is up considerably from where it was, but you can see it's just kind of going sideways here. It's really, actually, we might as well. We're already here, guys. We might as well put some lines on it, right? We've got that there. The highs are, the lows are becoming higher. And then we've got something kind of like this. Okay. And I almost want to put it more in like here. So that's just a little more consistent. But the highs are becoming lower and the lows are becoming higher. So I just throw that out there. There's a freebie. But that's not the gold rush, is my whole point. The gold rush right now is actually in our next and last stock, okay? I want you to see that. Well, it's actually not a stock. What am I talking about? We're going to go right here. All right. In fact, I think I've got another one in here, guys. A little further down. Oh, man. Where did I put that? Because there it is. I didn't want to miss that little note on there. Look at this. Since the stock market bottomed last March, Ethereum is up 22,000%. 22,000% since last March. It's May 6th, right? Now that is a big move. That is hot. So if you're hearing about crypto right now, first of all, if you have no idea what crypto is and it just seems weird, well, I'm with you on some level there because it is a little weird, but then everything new can feel a little weird, okay? We did several episodes on this already, so I'm not going to dive into cryptocurrency as a whole topic, what it is, how it works, why do we call it cryptocurrency. But just quickly, a lot of people will say, Blair, it just seems weird because it's not actually any money. There's no money to it. Well, I would say this. While that's true, most of us have gone almost entirely digital with our USD, haven't we? Now, we have the option to go and get some paper money, but I don't know too many folks out there who make sure that they have everything that they're supposed to have in their bank account in physical money, right? So it's not that big of a departure, and yet obviously there are some other major differences. I just think that it is something that is here. I don't think it's going away. I'm not saying it's going to replace our money anytime soon, but it certainly is capturing more attention. Now, I want to show you something here. Ethereum up 22,000%. Now, the big cryptocurrency that you're going to hear about is Bitcoin. Most everybody at this point, if you're interested, you're here tonight, you're looking at this topic, chances are you've probably at least heard of Bitcoin, okay? But there are other coins. It's not only Bitcoin that is traded on cryptocurrency exchanges. You can buy these coins on exchanges, okay? The other coins that are offered outside of Bitcoin are commonly referred to as altcoins or alternative coins. They are the alternative to Bitcoin, okay? And there are so many of these coins. It would be overwhelming to go and try and look at. It's countless at this point, it seems. There are so many coins. And that may seem like a strange thing, but there are some major players. Well, in terms of the altcoins, not Bitcoin, this is one of the biggest ones, Ethereum. This has been around, usually in a conversation about Bitcoin. This is one that's going to come up, Ethereum. And I want to show you something because Bitcoin went on a bit of a rush back in 2017. Now, look where this is now, $3,500 respectively for one coin, Ethereum. It's like buying a share, but you're not buying a share of a company. You're buying a coin, okay? This is a digital coin. Look what happened back here. This guy went up, and I remember I was watching crypto at this point. This is in late 2017, 2018. It tops out at about 1,400 bucks. Okay, Bitcoin topped out at about 20,000 at that point. And then look what happened, right? It went down to $75. 1,400 to $75. Okay, that's extreme risk, right? You wouldn't want to, as we say, be stuck holding the bag in that position, right? Now, of course, we would teach you, first of all, we'd focus on the stock market. We wouldn't be trading cryptocurrencies, but we would teach you skills so that you would never let that happen. In your stock trading, you never need to let it go all the way down. There are very simple tools that can help do that. It stops you from losing your money. And that's such an important thing a lot of people don't know about. But look at this. It's incredible. It goes down. Now, at that point, it was basically like, well, is this dead? And that's 2018, 2019, 2020, right? It's around $75, sometimes a little bit higher, but getting back down to that 75 level. And then look at this. Okay. Now, I'm going to say in short, well, what happened? What happened? Well, this coin, like all of these new technologies, they're not very valuable unless they can be utilized in meaningful ways in everyday life. If we could put them into business in some way, use them for transactions in some way, legitimize them on Wall Street in some way, whatever the case might be, wider acceptance and usage of any of these digital currencies tends to drive up the value of that currency. It then becomes useful, right? And Ethereum has found some new ways, and this is not my plug. I do not own Ethereum. I do not plan on owning it. In fact, I'm not even allowed to own it after I have this conversation with you. Okay, so let me just say that right up front. However, they found some ways to be more useful. It's been adopted and implemented in some new ways. And for that reason, it has absolutely exploded. Last thing I want to say here, though, you say, well, Blair, you're showing me this. Wow, look at this thing, 22,000%. Should I just go and buy it? Well, that's the question everybody wants to know, right? They want to know the answer to that. Well, you know already, I don't come on here and say, go buy this right now. No, I'm telling you, we ought to be aware of these things. These things are very hot. Tradeway is going to be doing and speaking more about cryptocurrencies in the future as this becomes a topic that is all the more important. I don't believe it's going away. When it crashed back in 2018, I know a lot of people thought, well, maybe that's that. That was the first time around it crashed, but now it's come back roaring and then some. I don't think it's going anywhere. Our world is moving very fast. Digital, digital, digital. So who knows what this means for the future, but it's definitely not going anywhere, whether it's Ethereum or something else. This whole idea of cryptocurrencies is pretty popular. So I would say this: on any investment, on any trade, on any time you're going to risk money, you need a few things. You need to know what is going to tell me when to buy and when to sell. Because my neighbor who doesn't have any skill sets is just going to throw money at it or do nothing. Many people are going to do nothing. They're not going to invest. They're not going to trade. And they are going to miss out on one of the greatest financial opportunities that we have. Okay? Money being invested, being put to work for us is money at work for us. Now, we're going to work for money, or money's going to work for us. And I can tell you this, if you learn how to make money work for you, you're going to go a whole lot further, a whole lot faster, with a whole lot less work. Okay? We can impact, we can supply, we can bless, we can do the things we want to do if we know how to do that. So you've got to have a system. You're going to have to learn that system. I've talked about some of that tonight. So we have a step one, start your journey coming up. If you've been with me now for weeks, months, or this is your very first time, you're intrigued. How do I do this? How could I? Can I do this? I know there are people out there tonight. You're asking yourself, can I do this? You have debt. You have student loans. You have college coming up for kids. You have listed off, right? You're driving trucks 60 hours a week. You're never at home. You never see your family. These are the kinds of things, stories I hear and see all the time here at Tradeway. And what we want to do is we want to help you get into a different driver's seat. And you can learn how to take advantage of things when they're hot by having a system. Head on over, tradeway.com. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and post the link here as we're wrapping up. Tradeway.com, right on the main page there, you're going to see, I'm going to go ahead and just do this. You're going to see step one, start your journey, right? Get into a live event. It's going to cost you $99 to join that course. $99 with a money back guarantee so that you can see what I've already seen and feel like you can take the risk to do that. And you'll be able to see the beginnings of an entirely new journey for you and your family. That's the step one, start your journey. Trust me, if you've never done it, you owe yourself to do it. Too many times, too many people I've talked to who waited 6 months, they waited a year, they waited 18 months, they kept hearing David Mitchell on the radio, And they finally came and said, Blair, I wish I'd done this 2 years ago. So 2 days out of your life, huge upgrade to your financial journey. Come on over, check it out. Lots of the people who have been on here have done this class already, and they've seen the power of it. Now, I'm behind on some comments here. Troy, I love that. I'm old school, always keep some paper USD in my wallet. Never know when you'll come across a lemonade stand, says Jeffrey. Love to support the young business people. Hey, I got no issues with that, man. That's awesome. So there is the link. You can register for that step 1. I popped that in there. Let's see. Troy said, we can even use a coin to cash vending machine with the option to trade our coins for Bitcoin. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely would not be paying with Bitcoin right now. Too much. There's a lot of risk in it, taking it as a payment, but there's a lot of risk in it selling it. Also, we talked about this on our Bitcoin episode. Whenever you spend Bitcoin to buy something, the IRS considers that a taxable event. You've now sold an asset. Isn't that strange? So Bitcoin is a currency, but there's some unique tax things. If you miss that, go back, watch our Bitcoin episode. You don't want to miss that. It's a whole episode on cryptocurrencies. And Jeffrey says, step 1, so worth it. You know, I'll finish with this tonight, guys. A lot of you guys have already been in the training. But for those of us out there that haven't, I'm really honestly telling you this tonight. Step 1 is, I think about how I ask people in my life, you know, how many courses did you take in high school that really taught you about money? And did any of the things you learned about money come from people who are really, really good with money? And how many courses, even in college, in university, did they teach you about Wall Street, about the stock market? And yet we go down the street, we go to Edward Jones, we give them our entire life and future, and we say, I don't really know. Usually, if I'm not talking about you on this one, then I'm not talking about you. But I know this is true for a lot of people. I don't have any idea what that guy or that woman is doing. I have no idea. That's why I'm paying them. Go ahead, just do it. And I get my 7-8% a year. Hopefully I don't lose it all in a stock market crash, which I got calls last year from people going, COVID hit, we've tanked, I've lost 35%. What do I do? Right? Don't let that be you. Come learn something about what they're doing with your money, because nobody cares more about it than you, right? We are here to help. So that said, everybody, thanks for being on tonight. Stock Talk Thursday. We got to dive in a little bit tonight across the spectrum. I enjoyed this. I like this one. I think we're going to do some stuff like this more in the future. Step 1, start your journey. The link is there. You owe it to yourself to try. You owe it to yourself to try. We'll see you there. Thank you guys so much. And we'll be back on Monday night, so don't miss that. We're back for Market Monday.